Welcome to the Good Morning from the Chicken Coop podcast with Kim Johnson, your creative strategist and master mindset coach. Filled with inspiration, distinctions, perspectives, and possibilities, we help you to cultivate a mindset that leads you to create the best version of yourself you could ever imagine. Join Kim every morning from one of her favorite happy places, her chicken coop, along with all her chickens.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Chicken Coop, and today we are continuing What Are Your Standards, Part 2. So when I was finishing up the other one, we were talking about how to not have your standards, make it a nightmare to live with you. And I think this is such an important part of the conversation because I've been there. So when I first started really paying attention to standards and what I was doing with myself, many of you know, if you followed me, I spent a large part of my career working with Tony Robbins. And so you have very high standards when you are in an environment that is that intense. And one of my challenges that I personally had was not holding other people to my standards, because it can really be uncomfortable for those around you when you put yourself at that place and expect others. The road to disappointment is paved with missed expectations. So when we do stuff like that, it is very, very challenging for the people around us to be happy if they're not matching your standards, which is in itself the reason of who do you choose to spend your time with? Yes, you should be very cautious, about who you choose to spend your time with. And this is part of the reason, but ultimately, our standards cannot be put onto other people unless they agree with it. And that is the big thing. Unless that other person actually agrees with you. So I'll give you a great example. I have very high standards for my surroundings. I don't tolerate messes well. It's just the way I was brought up. I can't stand having clutter. It's just the way my house was when I was a kid. Although, I am even a little bit more intense than my mother was about it. I can't tolerate lots of laundry. I just want it to all be taken care of. And when I first met my husband, he is very much the same way, and I was thrilled about that. And I made the assumption that it was going to be this is going to be so great because he thinks like I think. And yes, he does think like I think, but not at the same intensity of it. So where I will not go to sleep until the sink is totally straightened up, he doesn't care if there's a bowl in the sink, or he doesn't care if there's ice cream cups in the sink. And he doesn't care if there's laundry that hasn't been folded. So I would start putting my standards of things on him, and how that would show up is I would get mad at him. I would be frustrated. I'd be like, why didn't you do this? Why can't you find the dishwasher? The dishwasher is 6 inches from the sink. Can't you just put this bowl in the dishwasher? And my frustration would rise and rise and rise. And before you know it, I'm angry with him about a dish. Now, just pause and think about that. I'm angry with him about a dish. That doesn't make any sense. So, I'm making a big deal out of nothing. Now, he's that kind of guy where he's just like, this is a dish, this is no big deal. I don't know why you're getting upset about it. But for me, it was something different. It meant he was disrespecting me. I made my standards were now getting in the way because they were making it mean something. He was disrespecting my desire to have a clean kitchen. But he wasn't disrespecting me. It was just him not thinking about putting a dish in the sink, and what was the big deal? It's just a dish. But I was making it much more than that. So he went on a trip, and I had the whole house to myself, and I could have it completely, organized. I could do whatever I wanted. And the first day it was great. The second day it was great. And then I started missing him. And by the fourth day, I recognized there was not a dish at all in the sink. And I had this epiphany in that moment that the dish represented the fact that I was, connected to someone. Someone else lived in my life. I had another person there. And it wasn't about being offended. It wasn't about being disrespected. It was just simply a dish. And since that moment, I was able to let it go. And I recognized then that my standards were causing me a problem when it came to other people, and that I had to choose them for myself, but I could not put that on someone else. So I want you to all think about this, because if your standards are driving other people crazy, they're not healthy. And you have to look at them and you have to say, okay, and this works in the opposite as well. So if your standards are like you don't care and your house is a mess and it's hurting your partner, and your partner's asking you, please, can we clean this up? You have to look at the fact, I need to raise my standards, because if you love the other person, you really do want to look at this and say, okay, well, what are things that I can do to help in this situation? Do I want to participate? And in my case, I had to allow the fact that if there's a dish in the sink and I've got the hang up with it, then I need to put the dish in the sink in the dishwasher. I don't need to hold him to hostage for the situation. So think about what you have for standards. Focus on that. See where you can shift those. And remember, they're your standards, not someone else's. You have to be accountable for them, not someone else. I will see you tomorrow.